when Elena Walker stood on the stage of the Manhattan Stock Exchange, smiling beneath the flashing cameras. Everyone called her inspiring. Nathan Walker called her unreachable from the balcony above the trading floor. He watched his wife ring the opening bell beside her father and the board members of Hawthorne Biotech. Her champagne-colored dress shimmered beneath the lights, elegant and expensive, just like the new world she had stepped into, a world that no longer seemed to include him. Mrs. Walker, over here. Elena, smile. Who's the young man beside you? Nathan noticed the hesitation before she answered. This is Adrian Cole, she said smoothly. My new executive assistant. The cameras shifted toward the younger man instantly, tall, sharp jawline, dark blonde hair. Confident in that polished, effortless way wealthy young professionals often were, Nathan studied him quietly, too handsome for an assistant, too comfortable beside his wife. Adrian leaned toward Elena and whispered something that made her laugh genuinely, more genuinely than she had laughed with Nathan in months. That hurt more than Nathan expected, not because he feared losing her, but because he suddenly realized she had already left emotionally long ago, 3 years earlier. Elena used to wait for him at the apartment window when he came home late from work. Back then, they survived on cheap takeout and dreams too ambitious for their bank accounts. Nathan had built software systems for hospitals. Elena had built presentations on borrowed laptops. They were partners, now. Hawthorne Biotech had gone public at a valuation near $1 billion. And Elena had transformed with it. Designer dinners, private investors, exclusive parties, people who treated Nathan like an outdated accessory. The Martinez family, Nathan's family, had quietly funded Elena's company in its earliest days. Without them, Hawthorne would have died before its second year, but success has a strange way of rewriting history. At the celebration dinner that evening, Nathan sat at the far end of the table, while Elena and Adrian entertained investors near the center. She barely looked at her husband once. Nathan swirled the whiskey in his glass across the room. He noticed Adrian watching Elena carefully, admiringly, like a man staring at something he wanted but believed he couldn't have. Interesting. Halfway through dinner, Elena finally approached him. You've been quiet tonight. Nathan smiled faintly. You seem busy. Her eyes flickered toward Adrian for a second too long. He's talented, she said casually. Efficient. I needed someone capable. Nathan nodded slowly. Of course. She studied him almost suspiciously. She had expected jealousy, anger. A confrontation instead. He simply looked calm. That unsettled her more. You don't mind. Why would I? For months you've acted distant. Nathan almost laughed at the irony. Distant. He had spent months trying to save a marriage she had already abandoned emotionally, but instead he said softly, maybe I'm learning to let you live the life you want. Something unreadable crossed Elena's expression before she could answer. Adrian appeared beside her with 2 champagne glasses. There you are, he said warmly. Nathan noticed the familiarity in his tone, not professional, personal. Elena accepted the drink with a smile she knew longer reserved for her husband, and in that exact moment, Nathan understood everything. This wasn't an affair yet, but it was heading there fast. Most men would panic. Most men would fight. Nathan did neither, because the moment he truly saw Adrian Cole, he also saw something else. The young man wasn't dangerous. He was ambitious, and ambitious people were predictable. Nathan rose calmly from his seat. I should head home, he said. Elena frowned slightly. Already, you're celebrating. I'd only ruin the mood. Adrian extended a polite hand. Good meeting you properly, Mr. Walker. Nathan shook it firmly. You too. Adrian, then he looked directly into the younger man's eyes and smiled. Take good care of my wife. Neither of them noticed the hidden meaning behind those words, but eventually they would, and by then, it would already be too late. Over the next few weeks, Nathan became the perfect husband. That was the first thing that terrified Elena. No arguments, no accusations, no suspicious questions. Instead, he became patient, observant, almost supportive. When Elena mentioned Adrian staying late at the office, Nathan simply nodded. When someone's talented, you keep them close. When she canceled dinner plans because of meetings, he answered calmly, work comes first. I understand. It confused her. Part of her had wanted resistance. Guilt becomes easier to ignore when the other person behaves badly, but Nathan refused to play the bitter husband. One rainy evening, Elena returned home near midnight to find Nathan in the kitchen cooking pasta. The smell of garlic and butter filled the apartment. "You waited up?" she asked quietly. Nathan handed her a plate. "You forgot to eat again," for a moment. Genuine guilt flashed across her face. Then her phone lit up. Adrian. Nathan noticed her expression soften instantly. Tiny things reveal the truth more than grand betrayals ever do. "You should answer." Nathan said. Elena hesitated. "It's work, of course." She walked onto the balcony. Nathan continued eating silently while listening to the muffled laughter through the glass doors. When she returned, she avoided eye contact. Adrian solved the Zurich investor issue. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "He learns quickly." Elena looked surprised. "You've barely spoken to him." "I know his type." "And what type is that?" Nathan smiled faintly. "The kind that wants more than opportunity." That answer lingered heavily between them. A week later, Nathan invited Adrian to their penthouse for dinner. Elena nearly dropped her wine glass. "You invited him. Why not?" "He works closely with you." Adrian arrived wearing a navy suit and the careful confidence of a man trying to impress wealthy people. Nathan welcomed him warmly throughout dinner. Nathan played the role perfectly: supportive husband, relaxed mentor, generous older man. He spoke about business strategies, investor psychology, luxury branding, everything Adrian desperately wanted to learn. And Adrian listened like a student discovering religion. Nathan could see it happening already: admiration, trust, dependence, exactly as planned at one point. Elena stepped away to take a call, leaving the two men alone on the balcony overlooking Manhattan. Adrian loosened his tie slightly. "You built a lot of Elena's early systems yourself." "Right?" Nathan nodded. "She's brilliant. But brilliance collapses without structure." Adrian smiled carefully. "You sound proud of her." "I was." The word was subtle, past tense. Adrian noticed. "You two seem different lately." Nathan took a slow sip of whiskey. "Success changes people." Then he looked directly at Adrian, especially people who spend too much time chasing admiration. Adrian shifted slightly under his gaze for the first time. Nathan saw uncertainty in him. Good, because uncertainty makes manipulation easier. When Elena returned, the atmosphere felt strangely tense. "What did I miss?" she asked lightly. Nathan smiled. "Just guy talk." But later that night, after Adrian left, Elena stood in the bedroom doorway watching her husband carefully. "You've changed." Nathan adjusted his cufflinks slowly. "Maybe I finally learned something." "What?" "That holding on to people who want freedom only pushes them further away." Elena stared at him in silence. She mistook his calmness for surrender. That would become the greatest mistake of her life, because Nathan Walker wasn't letting go. He was positioning pieces on a chessboard, and neither Elena nor Adrian realized they had already become part of the game.